Okay. Welcome back to IndieCent, everyone, for a Halloween special. It's me, Elmo, and Joe from last year, who you will remember from our Alan Wake episode.
Hi. They just put me in a tomb and just released me for Halloween episodes. And I've just been in my tomb just tweeting about Rewrite It ever since.
Oh, and also you've been tweeting to me about the girls in Lauren the Amazon Princess.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god. Alan. Begins with an A. A Wake. I just got that.
No, you didn't.
Wow. Mind blown.
Okay, this year, since I don't like doing things normal, instead I've decided, since the Alan Wake episode was so fun, I'd not do an indie horror thing for Halloween. Instead, look back on a more obscure horror series from that kind of got looked over. That's very strange in its own ways. And for that end, we'll be looking at 2004 and 2005 Suffering series, which I am a big fan of, and was also completely forgotten because just a few months after the first one released, Resident Evil 4 came out, and it was over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that this game, somebody was playing it at a weekend party we were going at, and it was like, during that time, everybody was talking about how they had played Resident Evil 4 for their fourth time, so...
Yeah. But luckily, I play everything out of sequence, so while I will agree that Resident Evil 4 is way better, I had to wait until I got the Wii to play that, while I played the first Suffering on the PS2 and could not actually leave the starting area of the game for 30 minutes because I was scared shitless. So yeah, this is going to be a fun, interesting one, and I'm sure we're going to have very divisive opinions on this one.
Indeed.
But before we get into that, we'll go ahead and, since this is a Halloween special and we're recording on the 21st, anything we do for like recent news is going to be instantly outdated, so we're just going to be doing what we've been playing. Who wants to start us off?
I can go.
Okay, you got 10 minutes. I'll be watching the clock here.
Okay. First of
I
all,
forgot the timer.
the thing I'm proud of and that nobody else is going to give a shit about, after 20 years, or plus, give or take, I finally beaten Double Dragon. Straight through. No save state abuse. None of that. Got through, used all of my 3 lives, and got through level 4, which is one of the hardest things ever made. If you don't believe me, try it. Just...
Oh no, I believe you. I'm well aware of what bullshit Double Dragon is.
Yeah. It's the thing about it is, it's not that you can have a good run, it's just you have to have 4 good runs on the same level on the same playthrough. Otherwise you're screwed. So I did that, and I was so proud of myself, and I was playing my Switch on mute while my wife was doing something else, and I'm like, yeah! And she's like, well, something happened.
Did you beat up your brother to get the woman's?
Indeed,
spoilers
I did.
For Double Dragon.
Oh yeah, because that needs spoilers.
Video games.
Yes, because it's a 1-player game. Well, it's 2-player, but you switch off being 1 character, so it's just like, how can we establish that it's Double Dragon? Oh yeah, let's have the boss at the end be your brother, Bimmy. Anyway.
Remember how the 3rd game in the series was based off the terrible cartoon and it took place in Egypt?
Was it based off the terrible cartoon? I thought that was the 5th one.
Yeah. No, the 3rd, in like Double Dragon 3, the Rosetta Stone, I think it was called.
Okay. Yeah, the Rosetta Stone. I played it. It's just, I remember, like, what was it?
Double Dragon. The one that ripped off JoJo Part 3.
Oh, yes, yes. I got into the 2nd level once on that. But, yeah, I just remember the animated series being like Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls, even though there wasn't a Double Dragon 4 until
yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
A couple of years ago.
What the fuck happened with 3?
3 was just based on an arcade game that was the worst arcade game ever because it was like the first microtransaction piece of shit where if you wanted power-ups and you wanted to heal yourself, you had to insert more quarters. So they made it even a more bullshit game at home by just being, you only have one life unless you get other characters or play 2-player. And yeah, it's hard as balls. So fuck that game.
You know, I'm starting to think that nobody making Double Dragon knew what to do with it as a series.
Yeah, no. But the fun part is there was no Double Dragon 5 because they didn't consider Super Double Dragon 4. Or there was no Double Dragon 4, even though I lost my train of thought. But anyway, there was a Double Dragon 5, and even though they didn't consider Super Double Dragon 4 or Super Double Dragon 4. So I'm gonna move on from this.
Remember how we had 2 very recent Double Dragon remakes, and only one of them was good, and the other one was one of the worst games ever made?
Well, Double Dragon...
I'm still not sure. They came out like a year apart. That's the wild part.
Yeah. Thing is, Double Dragon Neon was... I like it. It's just the same problem I have with a lot of brawlers these days, is that they follow the River City Ransom thing of needing experience and needing to buy power-ups and stuff like that. But River City Ransom...
every video game has to be an RPG now.
Yeah. Well, they have to extend the gameplay. But they only have so much time to make stuff, so they have that, but with a straight, non-open world game where you're just going from level to level to level. I mean, you can go back to levels, but it doesn't feel like you're making progress. So Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, like Castle Crashers, and a lot of games do that. So, but
it made more sense than Castle Crashers because you could fit your character how you want, so you could play the way you wanted.
Yeah, but River City Ransom was open world, so you could go wherever you wanted, you could approach it however you wanted, and that made it, I mean, granted, you were kicking the shit out of the same people and not doing a whole lot, but more than that, but it was the right approach. It was just a Nintendo game that was like 20 years before, you could really make it something out of it. But River City Ransom is still really good, it's just really tedious.
Anything else?
Yes. I am one of the people who actually played through all of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Everything you've heard about is true, although it is still all right to play. I got through 80 hours to beat it, but the thing is, there is enough of the old Mass Effect trapped inside it that I can play it and I can beat it and I can get occasionally enjoyable parts of it, but yeah, there's a lot of what's wrong with her face and terrible dialogue and NPCs running around like they don't know what the fuck they're doing and glitching out, and me walking next to a rock and oh shit, I fell into the game world and the game just reset.
I'm still thinking about how a trailer came out for it, and there was a shot of a character holding a gun backwards, and it still fired.
Yeah. And also, most of the characters are bland except PB, and when a couple of them talk to each other, it sounds like the same person talking to each other. So it's really weird like that. And then there's the last 10% of the game where the cool stuff comes out. Like, you get to meet a nerdy Krogan and see what a nerdy Krogan is like. And that's kind of awesome. But... oh,
kind of like the mechanic in number 2.
Yeah. It's a scientist Krogan and who gets captured, and you have to find him, and they kind of have the nerdy, but he has the Krogan voice, so he's like, "What's up, guys?" So,
good God.
Yeah. Let's see, is there anything else? I wanted to try to play Nier Automata, but the thing is, my brand new computer has a solid state drive, which is only about 150 gigabytes, and Nier Automata is about over half of that just to get it installed. So I have to delete all non-essential things if I just want to play that. And then right when I was about to start playing it, we have to do this podcast, so I need like a few hundred megabytes open to record. So I have to hold on that. And I suppose that's it, so I will yield the floor.
I'll go ahead and go next. I have 5 games to discuss, but I've already discussed 2 of them on previous podcasts. I'll go through them quickly. I finally finished up my Wajidai retrospective on my YouTube channel, and I suggest you all go watch it. And oh my god, I kept making so many mistakes on pronouncing the names of staff members. And Dave Gilbert himself has actually tweeted at me and gone in the comments in one video to correct me.
Sounds like something I do.
But it was a really fun experience. I learned a lot, and I'm really proud of the Unavowed episode I ended it with, which ended up being 30 minutes long, and I think it's edited fairly well. The Lamplight City and Unavowed episodes are now up. Please go watch those. Go watch the whole thing. I don't think there was a single bad game I played throughout that entire experience, even when I was replaying stuff. I ended up liking Shardlight a lot more than I originally did, and I liked it a lot to begin with, which surprised me. Other than that, I finally finished Borderlands, and by that I mean I decided I just didn't want to finish the last 2 DLC packs because it was clear they were starting to pad out the gameplay a little, even though the story was better. So I moved on to Borderlands 2, and I have 2 in the pre-sequel now thanks to a friend who I'm going to do co-op with later. And, of course, I'm playing a Zero. he gives haikus when he kills people and says, "You've activated my trap card. How can I not play as him?" I love how the best character in each game is the character with the sniping tree, and they're all really weird. And that includes Zero, the weird, who's basically like, what if Gray Fox was an FPS online player? It's really fun so far. I'm not that far into it yet, but I like I like some of the humor. It's still very Borderlands before the pre-sequel, so there's some bad stuff in there that really need to be rethought. There's still a class that uses a slur for little people and so on and so forth, but it's fairly minor compared to all the ridiculous energy. Every time Handsome Jack pops up to call me a piece of shit, it's hilarious. One time he's just like eating food while he's just haphazardly calling me. I got a chuckle out of that. It's going to be really fun to get more into it. And I've decided for my next series on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be looking at the Erevorn fantasy games that Winter Wolves have released. So I'm starting with Spirited Heart, which you can tell this was made in 2008 by a very small studio.
Yes, I played it.
It's basically a Princess Maker takeoff with an Otome game smashed into it, and then another expansion that adds a bunch of Yuri roots, and it feels like 3 different games smashed together because it is. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work, but I had a lot more fun with it than I was expecting. I wouldn't buy it for $20 again, but
oh yeah,
it has kind of nice art. It's kind of cool to see someone I followed on Twitter for a while ended up getting kind of their start doing art for this game, which is neat. I appreciate the effort that went into it, and I do like one cool thing about it. You can play as a human girl, an elf girl, or a demon girl, and that changes dialogue in the different routes you follow and even your choices, which makes them play out differently. Like, there's a path with an elf noble girl. If you do it as the human girl, she just gets captured when she's trying to save her from some bandits and has to trick the bandits into fighting each other. But if you do it as the demon girl, she just summons up demon magic and makes them run the fuck away because she's turning things into snakes, which is fun. And I've also been playing Lauren the Amazon Princess again, which is going to be the exact next game in the series. And yeah, it's still great. And I still need to finish the Karen route, and I can't believe I haven't done that yet.
Feels like the first thing you would do after Shambara.
Yeah, it is the second best route by default. I also want to try the route with the barbarian guy with the guy character. That should be interesting. Let's see, that's about it for me. What about you, Elmo?
Oh, jeez. I'm panicking a little bit because I'm just looking at my notes and I've got like 2 games that I was planning on talking about. We're recording IndieCent again in like a week. So So for once, I'm struggling. Catherine. I finished Catherine.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Catherine is a lot like IndieCent, in that everyone's favourite character is the really cute, sassy trans waitress who everyone thinks the game should just be about instead, because she's way better. I've been playing WarioWare Gold, which is really good. It's very much a kind of... Like, I actually said this out loud today while playing it. The light on my 3DS went red, and I went, what the hell? I only just charged you! And then I looked at my clock and I was like, oh, I've been playing you for like 5 hours. Oh shit.
You were playing a Nintendo handheld without having the battery connected to a wall?
Yep, I'm a fool.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You deserve to be flogged.
The Binding of Isaac is bringing out another expansion with all new characters, achievements, and enemies. So hey, speaking of manic depression, we've got...
Haven't you flogged yourself enough?
Yeah. Ugh.
That's better than that time I ended up playing Game Dev Tycoon for 186 hours.
Man, that's a really good game, at least. I wanna tell a really bad joke. I say bad, it's fantastic. It's one of my favourite jokes I've ever heard. Yesterday I went, oh, here's something I played. I played Dungeons and Dragons for the first time. Because my sister and my brother-in-law, they thought, hey, we've got some friends who want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Do you want to come? And I went, yeah, sure. I won't go into all the details, but I was the rogue, obviously, and my favourite part was when there was a really difficult guy to beat. So I snuck into his clique of bodyguards, and then I tied his feet together with sheep intestines. And then one of the other people was like, I challenge you to a duel! And he stood up and went, very well, and then he just fell down the stairs. So this was a joke that my brother-in-law told me, and it's one of my favourite jokes. It's incredible. I love it. It's so good. Oh, and there's 3 of us, so this works well for us. I'm so excited. This is so amazing. It's not. It's terrible. I love it. I'm going to get started now. There's 3 guys walking through the woods, and they're coincidentally called Joe, Dark, and Elmo. And they find a magic lamp, and they go, oh, I wonder what this is. And as they pick it up, a genie comes out of the lamp and says, phew, I've been in that lamp for so long that I'm not just going to grant you 3 wishes, I'm going to grant you 3 wishes each. And Dark goes first and says, I wish, straight away, I had $1 billion. And the genie gets out an iPad or something, it has Dark's bank balance on it, and there's $1 billion more in there. And Joe goes next and goes, I wish I was the richest man in the world. And boom, switches to his bank balance. He's now got like $300 billion or something. And then the genie comes to me and I say, I wish that my left arm was rotating in a circle counterclockwise. And the genie goes, okay. And sure enough, my arm just starts moving around in a circle. And he goes, okay, 2nd wishes, guys. And Joe goes, I wish that I had just the most beautiful, amazing, smart, and sexy wife in the whole world. And this woman appears and wraps her arms around Joe. And then Dark says, I wish that I was irresistible and attractive and charismatic to everyone in the world who I chose to appear that way to. And Genie snaps his fingers, it becomes true. And it comes to me and I say, I wish that my right arm was rotating clockwise in a circle all the time. And my arm just starts moving around. And the genie goes, okay, so your 3rd wish is? And Joe goes, I wish that I was healthy all the time. And I never had anything go wrong with me, ever again. Genie snaps his fingers, and sure enough, like you had a sore toe and it's just gone. You're in perfect health. Dark says, I wish that I was this age, in the prime of my life. Gonna go as 26 for the rest of my life. And the genie snaps his fingers, and sure enough, Dark never grows older than 26. Comes to me, and I go, I wish that my head was always bobbing backwards and forwards. And the genie goes, okay, I guess. And snaps his fingers. And sure enough, all 3 of us have been granted all 3 of our wishes. We go our separate ways, and we meet up a few years later, and Joe says, my life's been incredible. I I invested that $1 billion. It's now something close to $10 billion. I'm doing my bit with charities around the world, and I'm having a great time with my wife. I've never felt better. This is great. And Dark says, my life has been just fantastic. I feel amazing. I've used my money to solve quite a few of the world's pressing problems. It's really impressive, and I'm just having an amazing time. I'm truly living my best life. And then I come in, and I'm waving my arms around in a circle, and I'm nodding my head back and forth. And I sit down, and I turn to you both, and I say, guys, I think I fucked up. That's it.
Okay.
That's the entire joke. I laughed so hard I got hiccups for an hour. That was just all that build-up for nothing. Nothing at all.
That still doesn't top the time you told us about how you were the real Magic Mike.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, that's out of the way. Should we go ahead and get into our main discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay, the suffering. Oh boy, there's a lot more about this game than you'd think there'd be. Though you wouldn't know it by the studio who made it, Surreal Software, because all I can find that they've also done was 2 canceled games I forgot to write down. One Lord of the Rings game in 2002 that wasn't the Two Towers beat 'em up that everyone liked, and 2 games called like Draken something that had dragons in them. I don't know. Oh, and it was published by Midway, so that's kind of a kiss of death. Remember Midway?
Mortal Kombat!
Remember Midway in the early 2000s?
Oh, yes.
No one does.
This game was written by Richard Rouse III, who ended up also directing the sequel. And he's also the person who originally pitched the idea. He wanted to make some sort of action horror game that would be like, have the action of Devil May Cry, have the environments of Resident Evil, I think he said, and I forget what the third part of the equation was, but oh yeah, the immersive world of Half-Life. Obviously that didn't happen, but it was an interesting pitch, so they went ahead with it. They were the Wikipedia page is actually really useful. They list some interesting facts, like how the initial inspiration for a lot of the horror came from The Shining, and that's how they came up with the idea of hallucinations randomly occurring through the game. Torque's design was based off the concept of strength instead of any sort of ethnicity, and they didn't want to give him any sort of specific character traits because they wanted him to be a mystery. The monster designs were done by Stan Wilson's studio workshop. They ended up finalizing the final designs for the first game. I don't think they returned for the second game, though, but I'm not sure.
A guy from Stan Winston's studio did the designs, but I don't think they were involved. They did try to make a movie out of it in the mid to late 2000s, but that nothing ever came of it.
Yeah, because Midway.
Yeah.
Oh god, Midway. There was a lot of more thought that went into this than you would initially expect from something released by Midway. I should mention Richard Rouse III's Wikipedia page is crap because it says somehow he was involved in Homefront, and I double checked Moby Games. He's nowhere in the game's credits, but Wooly from Super Best Friends was listed. and involved in some sort of animation production or something. And I clicked on his link on Moby Games, and the picture of him is him looking dumbfounded with a card stapled to his head. So that seems about right.
Oh boy.
But anyways, I want to talk about the first game first before we get more into the second, because I would say this is the better one overall. Sort of. I have mixed feelings on both of them, but this game, as I mentioned before, I first played this on the PS2 at a time when I finally got the PS2 because I was a GameCube kid. I saved up all summer for it, and I was just buying whatever interesting game I could find. And the Suffering stood out to me because I remember a lot of talk about it in game magazines around the time, and the disgusting advertisements, like the one giant cardboard pack-in for a magazine that was just a picture of a severed head in a toilet. So, that didn't... I was the kid who got scared by just a grainy picture of the xenomorph boss in Conker's Bad Fur Day, so... yeah, that didn't do me favors. But I did decide to pick it up because I wanted to try getting more into horror games, and I could not finish the first level for the 30 minutes because I refused to leave the first area of the game because it was so dark. And after what happened in the first cutscene, I was like, nope, not going there. But eventually I got into it, and it ended up being one of my favorite horror games I've ever played. I'm impressed by it because it does manage to have really fun gameplay while still keeping its atmosphere. It's not like scary in a traditional sense, but neither was Resident Evil 4. It's just, it feels like it has the right atmosphere. It's involving. It has some tense moments, and that's kind of hard to pull off. I'm noticing more and more the more I play horror games. I kind of ranted on about that. Sorry
You're
about
fine.
that.
I just kind of let you go.
It's
Feel free to jump in, because I do have a lot to talk about, but I don't want to hog the discussion.
It's okay. It's I have been a survival horror person since I played the first Silent Hill, and it's like, this is the first thing to scare me in a long damn time. So, and then I got adapted to that, and I was never really scared of anything again.
Oh yeah, once you've gotten used to Silent Hill, it's kind of hard to scare you.
Yeah. I got to this very late. I've had other people play it. Like I said, when I lived in Jersey, we would have like weekend parties at this cabin where we would like play video games, have a party, and be awesome. And one of them was The Suffering, and like somebody was just playing that while we were all trying to sleep, and it was just like I would occasionally like hear the voices talking to Torque and like see some of the enemies, and like, that was interesting, I should go back to it, and I never did. And this is like the first time I've gotten back to it. But I definitely could see it when it first came out. It's a little dated now, of course, and
I would say that it manages to create its own identity a whole lot better than you think it would.
Yeah, the identity, yes. The atmosphere might be another thing, but we can get into that a little bit later when the time comes. But it was, okay.
This is one of the few games of its type where I would still call it a horror game, even though I'm running around shooting everyone with my big old guns. Like, this would rank higher on my list of horror games than Resident Evil 4, just by virtue of Resident Evil 4 not even being on that list. Because it's not a horror game to me. And this still manages to be horror, even though when a creature jumps out at me, instead of screaming and running away, I shoot them with my assault rifle.
I would argue with you because, like, Resident Evil 4, it wasn't, like, scary, but it was tense. Like, there was one point in that game where I just got stuck trying to fight off a bunch of villagers coming at me while I was low on ammo, and trying to make every shot count.
That's true. Maybe Resident Evil 4, it would still count as a horror game for me, like the first time I played it, and especially the bit with the regenerators.
But you played it so many times.
Yeah, I've played it. I knife regenerators to death for fun now.
What I would say about Resident Evil 4 is it feels like an Italian movie from the 70s and 80s, but done really well and actually having a budget, that it has that atmosphere. It has that like grossness, and it has like, it's not necessarily scary, but it's like balls out like horror stuff. So that's how I saw it. Like, it was just this ridiculously over the top Italian thing that got beloved by horror fans, and it's still kind of has a cult following today, except it's Resident Evil 4 and it's one of the biggest things ever.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to put it, and helps explain why the tone works even though it's so goofy.
Mm-hmm. Hi, doggies.
Oh, great! Now I can't edit them out because you've mentioned them.
Sorry.
It's a flashback to Torque being attacked by the Maulers. God, that boss fight's terrible.
So the premise of this game, I think, is really interesting. Is that it takes place in a prison. It follows a character just named Torque, and the second game does clarify a bit. That's probably not his real name. It's probably his street name. Though that doesn't excuse that they wanted to name his little brother in the second game that they ended up cutting out Skid. I mean, come on. But he's on death row because he apparently killed his wife and his children, and he's being brought to a real hell site of a prison called Abbott Penitentiary that's located on an island. And at the moment he gets there, and you get an idea of who his other cellmates are. They're wildly different. They all have different opinions of him. And then an earthquake happens, and then they're screaming, and then the lights are going on and off, and like you hear blood gurgling moans, and like you hear like stabbings, and people are dying and begging for help, and then everyone dies, and then your cell door explodes off its hinges, and then the game's like, okay, you go figure that out now.
You go now.
And then you have to pick up a shiv from a guy and get a cheap jump scare where he's not dead yet, and it's like, and then dies. And then you have to go into the extremely dark hallway that isn't that bad on PC. The PC versions, they were later ports, aren't nearly as dark as the console ports were. I meant, like, if you've ever played the Ties That Bind on the PS2 or Xbox, in the first area, you can almost make out nothing, even though it's not even taking place inside at first.
I just cheated, right, because you warned me about how dark it was. So at the beginning of the game, when it's like, we want to make sure we get the lighting right. Move this square along until Torque is visible, but you can barely see the shadow behind him. And I just move it all the way to the right. And I'm like, yep, I can barely see it.
You could. That's a little much, but yeah, this was like the early 2000s, so they were kind of lying to you about the proper brightness setting.
Yes.
But it does make that first scene in Ties That Bind like, what the fuck is happening? Kind of, what the fuck? But too much to a point where like things you're supposed to be clearly saying, you don't. But I'll get more into that later. So after that, you as you go along, you eventually discover the monsters that are doing this. They are called the Malefactors, and it's like if you took the idea of Silent Hill and then switched out like melancholy and despair for death, violence, and hatred. And it's metal. It's metal as shit.
Yeah, they're all based around execution methods.
Yeah, there's lethal injection monsters that they're also slash metaphors for drug abuse that throw needles with some sort of toxin at you and try to stab you in the eyes with them. There are the first guys you meet are the blade arm enemies that are based off like beheadings, and their heads are barely attached to their bodies with weird metal contraptions.
And also, if you shoot them in the head, it doesn't kill them.
Yeah, that tripped me up. It's better to shoot them in the limbs. There are the enemies that died by the firing range. What is it called?
Firing squad?
Firing squad, that's it. And they have just a gigantic growth on their back with guns sticking out of it, and so on and so forth. and they're all really. There's my favorite is probably the underground enemies. They're a pain to fight, but they're basically corpses. They're shifting around in the dirt with chains going everywhere out of them, and it's so freaky looking.
Yep.
The monster designs for this game were fantastic, and I especially like the 3 ghosts that you have to deal with as you're exploring the prison. Killjoy, Horace Grace, and Hermes Hot. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I will try not to say the last one too much because my cat is named Hermes.
Okay, they all represent a different morality in the game. The idea is that based on what you do, who you save, and who you fail to save or kill because you're an asshole, changes Torque's morality, and that changes how the game ends, and also decides if Torque actually did do the thing that he's accused of doing or something else that I won't spoil yet. And so Horace Grace would be good, I say in quotations.
He only murdered his wife.
Yeah, to protect her.
And probably...
To be fair, he was in prison for so long, nobody remembers why he was there, and died on and just went kind of crazy. So he actually regrets the horrible thing he did and thinks he deserves what he gets. And his entire thing is he's trying to tell Torque, "Hey, don't be stupid, don't." So like he's almost tragic. He's like clearly did something wrong, but he's unlike the other two. He's like, you don't want to go down this road. Killjoy, who's based off Vincent Price and has a very good sound-alike actor, he appears in film projectors that are just randomly around the prison for some unknown reason. He probably did it because ghost. And he's the neutral ghost. He wants to cure Torque of his insanity, which I'll get into in a second, but he's also, maybe kind of nuts himself.
Yeah, just a little bit. Like, his idea of fixing Torque is, like, very 1920s, and he still has in mind, like, electroshock therapy and full frontal lobotomies are the way you fix mental illness, so... Or
my favorite one, let's chop off all of this man's limbs and cut out his tongue.
That'll fix it.
Yeah, that freaked me out the first time I saw that. And of course, my personal favorite and easily the most disturbing is Hermes, because he is a former executioner in the prison who was obsessed with the gas chamber, so much so that he even killed himself in the gas chamber. And he is just made of gas chamber gas at this point, and randomly appears throughout the game, killing people by just flying through them and making them suffocate on his poison. And he edges you on to keep killing. He's obsessed with killing. There's a lot of Holocaust imagery related to him. I think his name might be a reference to some sort of war criminal. I haven't been able to clarify that. But I love his actor's performance. It's just so creepy and whispery and unsettling. He's just a guy you don't want to be around.
Yeah. I like the character, and what they did with it is nice. The only thing about his voice, and this has nothing to do with the performer, but it reminds me of so many 90s comics from the Comedy Channel back before it was Comedy Central, and you would have a whole bunch of guys like this. It's like they invented a thing called the McRib. And it is a new method of execution that people willingly go through Torque.
That reminds me of the general voice acting of the Spawn series on HBO. Remember how it had all these vibrant, lively anime designs, but all the voice acting was like a quiet whisper all the time.
I watched one episode of that because I did not have HBO, and it's like the only time I could watch HBO is when I went to a hotel, and if I was a kid and I was at a hotel, my parents were like with me, so it's like can't watch the good stuff on HBO. So I watched one episode of Spawn, and I know what you're talking about, but it's...
You want some Rocky Road?
Oh, totes attitude.
I love how every episode of that series started with Todd McFarlane being a complete dumbass like he normally is in life.
Yeah.
He would be hilarious if he wasn't such an awful human being. I got issues with Todd McFarlane.
Is he as bad as Rob Liefeld?
I know he's worse because he basically betrayed everyone who started Image, including Rob Liefeld, so he could cash out on toy merchandise.
Oh god.
He's also sued a lot of different people for creative rights over different characters they've created. I remember I think he got in a spat with either Alan Moore or Neil Gaiman at one point.
Oh god.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into a spat with either of those people.
I'm kind of surprised that he might still be friends with Rob Liefeld, which is hilarious. But anyways, now that you brought it up, this game does kind of feel like 90s comics idea-wise, but the execution is much better.
Much better.
So yeah,
like morality. I thought the morality system was very good, because it's not something that's in a lot of horror games.
I thought it was okay. For 2004, that was surprisingly well handled, though I'm not wild. At first, I wasn't wild about it, deciding if Torque actually did the thing he said he did, they say he did, but it makes more sense to me when, because of the whole, you're seeing this from Torque's perspective angle it's going for, especially with the whole turning into a monster mechanic. So normally in the game, you have a melee weapon like a shiv, and have a selection of firearms you can switch between, including an old Tommy gun, because military base, something gangster, so on and so forth. And but you can also, if your meter is full or high enough, you can enter a monster form where you get blade arms and turn into this gross thing, and can just slice through enemies really easily. It's not as well implemented in this game, though. I rarely had to use it. And if you stay in it too long, you'll eventually hurt your health. So, like, you have to use it sparingly if you do use it at all.
But I kept forgetting to use it, and then when I got to the end of the game, I found out that if you use it, it's considered an evil action morality-wise. So
oh god, I forgot about that.
Well, obviously, I was just being really good the whole time. I wasn't being completely forgetful and getting really annoyed at some of the fights. Like, god, this is so annoying. It'd be so much easier if I could transform into something and kill all the monsters and then stop.
Thank god till Ties That Bind stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I figured that was how it worked, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, the implication is that Torque basically goes in a blood rage mode. Because when characters he might be like escorting around, see him transform into the monster, they don't react like, oh my god, he turned into a monster. Like, they're just like, oh man, you really killed a lot of those guys with your bare hands, huh?
I think that's why I didn't transform that much, because Chapter 4 is the first one where there's a bit in the showers where there's just dozens of mainliners throwing syringes at you.
Yeah, you have to turn off the shower heads, and that took me forever to realize, because never in the game up to that point did it mention, oh yeah, you can interact with some items in the environment, because everything you told me up to then was like, you have to kill the things, and that's it.
Yeah,
I just killed them until they stopped showing up.
That was one
Holy
it took
shit.
a very long time.
Yeah. That was one of my biggest issues with the games in general, is that it's a straight line, mainline, third-person shooter until it's not. And rarely can you tell that it's not. And sometimes where you need to go and what you need to do isn't obvious, because sometimes they will light up this doorway and it's like, oh, I have to go there. And it's like, nope, that doesn't open, so now what? And I have to find... oh, obviously I have to get to this unlit trash dumpster, climb it, and then climb onto this wall that I can barely see, even though I have the lights turned up all the way.
Yeah, I wasn't wild about some of the level design. There were times where I'd often just get stuck trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? Because it's not laid out like it is in a modern game where you have a fairly straight and obvious path you need to follow, and various areas where you can detour if you want to find something extra. It's more like these areas are going to become open later, like a Metroidvania style map. Mm-hmm. Except the game isn't that open.
No.
Because it's still like a segmented chapter thing going on. So it never meshes right in your brain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just realised all of those issues were in Chapter 4. Just get rid of Chapter 4. The game's great.
Well,
No,
yeah.
I didn't mind that much that fight sucked, because you're escorting someone at that point, and if you turn into a monster while you're escorting someone, you might as well just kill them. Because
not really.
You're going to do it accidentally anyway.
I fucking hate the AI in the first game.
Yeah. I'm turning into a monster and I'm just attacking someone, and my mate just runs up right in front of my face and be like, "Hey, talk! Just to let you know, good job!" And then you just disembowel them by mistake.
I didn't really have that problem because I figured, the monster only hits what's in the same center target area for that game, like with a normal gun, I think. I only had one instance where I accidentally shot a character.
Lucky you.
Even when I didn't even have any trouble the first time I played the game on the PS2. I just remember getting stuck a lot because I didn't know what to do next.
The one thing that I love talking about shooting people you're escorting, which I do a lot in my job. Since we were talking about Resident Evil earlier, let's talk about just really quickly about Resident Evil 6.
Oh god.
Let's not.
No, just one point really quick, because...
Remember how the entire plot happened because the guy involved with the evil conspiracy that Capcom just made up for this game to be the new big villain that they're never going to mention again, just like all the events of Devil May Cry 2, did everything because he wanted to bang the lady in the Chinese dress?
Nope.
Oh goodness.
I just remember...
I'm not even exaggerating here. He literally makes a clone of her. And it's a super zombie clone, of course.
Oh god, the Ada one, yeah.
Okay, let's just get
No,
Elmo's
sorry.
point about RE6 and then move on, please.
Yeah. After this, we can just go back to pretending it doesn't exist. So, it was... The first campaign I did of Resident Evil 6 was Leon's. And so what happens in Leon's campaign is just a quick rundown of some of the stuff at the beginning. Leon's trying to find the president, and you find some guy who's trying to find his daughter. The president's dead, president's a zombie. Which, in real life right now, I wish. But then the guy finds his daughter, but his daughter's a bit sick, and unsurprisingly she turns into a zombie and kills him, and you gotta kill them both. Then Leon and what's-her-face, they escape through the subway.
The other one.
Yep. There's a guy pulling a door open, and Leon goes, "Don't open that door!" But he opens the door, and then zombies kill him. And then you go through that exact same door anyway. Then you go to a gun shop, where there's some guys trying to fight off the zombies, but they all die. Then you get on a bus, and you're escaping, but then the bus crashes, and everyone except Leon and... I don't think it's Claire. No, I do think it's a random
It's
new
not
character.
clear. Yeah, it's a random new character. No
So
one
the
cares
other
about.
one, the new one dies. So then it's just Leon and the other one again, and then they take refuge in a church where everyone's safe and they've boarded the windows and everything. But after you look around for a while, monsters show up and kill everyone. And after a while, and by a while I mean literally the first time it happened, I kind of thought, I feel like someone at Capcom was writing this and thinking like, yeah, that's right, you go to TV tropes and you go to that tearjerker page and you write about the tragic death of gun store decapitated woman number 4 because it just tugged at your heartstrings when that cutscene played out and she died. And the first time someone died in the game, I was like, oh, I bet this is just going to be one of those games, isn't it? And I didn't care.
So it's
And it
just
was
The Walking
stupid
Dead
and
fast forward.
yeah.
And then you get to Chris's campaign, and he's sad about soldier feelings. And then you get to the third campaign that's actually semi-interesting but controls like shit. And then you get to Ada's campaign, and nobody cares at that point.
Yeah.
I started with
that
Ada's
was-
campaign, and you really needed to have played a couple chapters of the game before that because they tried to add stealth to that, and it does not work at all.
Oh, God. The zombies have machine guns.
And it's like they can transform into 3 or 4 things, and I haven't even just taken on the regular zombies. I'm like, oh, this was a mistake.
God, 6 was too much. I mean, and even in 5, there were still, like, zombie-ish things with machine guns. Sort of like in 4, where the villagers were infested by parasites. It was more like that because, like, Las Plagas was the base for whatever their bullshit was. I'm not sure if it was Ouroboros or something else.
RE5 was
confusing.
Ouroboros, and it was the stupidest thing ever. But
it partly came to by because of Lost Plagueis and the progenitor virus that launched everything else. I'm sorry, I mean the progenitor biocurse. I'm stealing that from Super Best Friends because it is it's a perfect explanation for all the Resident Evil bullshit. Like the stupid but kind of awesome plot twist in 7. I won't spoil for you.
I played it, so we're good.
There is a reason that I brought this up about the suffering, so it wasn't just. To be honest, I will take any opportunity to just shit on Resident Evil 6.
Of course, won't we all?
But it's the only thing Resident Evil 6 is good for. So But the first time in the suffering when you run into a guard, then it's your first kind of moral choice. And I really do like the moral choices. You can either stab the guard with your shiv and steal his gun, or you can, go around with him. He's quite helpful because he has a gun and you don't. And then he walks into a room at one point and dies. And it did make me laugh a little bit that he died, and then I got that thing where, you've done a good action, so your wife is you see a quick vision of her saying, "You did the right thing." And I didn't know that there would be moral choices at that point, so all I saw was a guy electrocuted to death, and then I heard, "You did the right thing," which confused me. But the point is, you escort him, and then he dies. And then in Chapter 3, I think, you find another prisoner, and you escort him through Chapters 3 and 4, and I think Chapter 4 is a really long one, but you get to the end of 4, and there's a point where you can open a door for him, and he says, "Look, I'm really sorry, because one of us has to go up there and open it, and I can't really do that, but if you could let me out, that would be really nice." And I let him out, and he goes, "Wow, thanks, you're great," and he runs out, and he doesn't immediately die. He runs off, and for all we know, in the suffering canon, he's fine, and he survived, and it's great.
I think Dallas actually lives through the second game too, because he doesn't appear in it at all, which is a good sign.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just the fact that it
which
would have been
good.
so easy for them to be like...
I should mention that Dallas is actually canonically gay.
Hooray!
Yeah, but you find out because Killjoy killed his boyfriend shortly before, and then he comes across his boyfriend's corpse and he's sad.
Oh.
Okay.
But then he gets a gun and he helps you shoot people.
And he also doesn't trust the government, which I also agree with.
Yeah.
Though he is wrong about the government being responsible for this until you get to the second game. Sort of.
Yeah, but it really made me care more about the choices and the NPCs.
They're really fun characters, I thought.
For every time Resident Evil 6 wanted to make me feel sad by showing me a cutscene of someone dying, there was a much sadder moment in the suffering when there's a guy trying to escape on a raft, but he can't because there's a bunch of... I've forgotten their names. They're weird bloated corpses filled with rats, and the best way to kill them is just chucking a Molotov on them.
Oh yeah, I think they died in a pirate ship crash a long time ago, and their bodies bloated.
They were slave owners, and they left when their ship was sinking, they left their slaves in the basement and left, but they didn't survive themselves, so it's actually the slave owners who became the horrific ghosts and not the actual slaves. So thankfully you aren't
to kill the slave owners again.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
More games should have the option to kill slave owners. Cough, cough, Kotar 1.
But
remember when you go to the planet with the slavery ring in Kotar 1, and the good choice is not to kill any slavers? Video games.
I still need to play the rest of that series.
I still need to avoid it.
Oh, okay.
I would still recommend 2 because it was done by Obsidian and it's kind of batshit.
Oh. I don't think I've ever played any Star Wars games ever.
They're not missing much, honestly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really do like the writing in this game. It's a real shame Richard Rouse doesn't seem to be doing much else other than minor development work, because this was the only series he got to have real creative control over, and he did some really interesting things. It's this cool mashup of B-movie sensibilities and psychological horror, and it works way better than you think it would. There's a lot of stuff that happens in both these games that stick in your mind, especially with the prison setting in the first one. The prison setting is so good. There's so much stuff you can draw from for creating monsters and like talking about the evils that humanity's capable of. Mm-hmm. And they just go nuts with it.
I kind of got a feeling of John Carpenter off of it. That it was like combining like some of his movies, and it has that thing where it doesn't feel important at the time, and like a lot of John Carpenter was dismissed at the time, like The Thing was, and but later as you think about it and then you experience more, it's like, wow, that was actually really well done.
Yeah, I also really like some of the morality changes to the story and all the hallucinations you get, especially when it's hinting at just exactly what was going on with Twerk's family, and it comes up with some really interesting stuff to examine, especially if you're doing a neutral Twerk, where he's not just like a goody two-shoes and his family's sad that he's in prison, or the evil Twerk where he's just an asshole and his family's like, fuck off. Mm-hmm. But the neutral Twerk, there's like some genuine pathos going on there, where it's not clear what he did, but it's clear that everyone came out of it much, much worse off.
Yeah, the neutral ending is actually kind of worse than the insane ending, because if you have the insane ending, at least it's because you're a fucking insane motherfucker. Neutral are kind of like, you're just a bad person. you're
but it pays off more in the sequel if you go on the neutral path, I say.
Oh, yeah. I wish I could have played it more, but the first game crashed my entire computer, so I had to restart the entire thing. I should mention
that the PC version for the first one is very crash heavy.
And the second one is very glitch heavy.
The second one wasn't nearly as bad with like it was more stable, but I don't think I encountered many glitches.
I did.
In the second one, I got enemies who would just stick to the roof for some reason.
Yeah, I had a few problems, like I would save at a point, and when it unsaved, I would be frozen, and I couldn't do anything, so I had to keep a rotation of 3 saves just to make sure.
It's a real shame the PC versions are so glitchy, because like they're goddamn gorgeous at times.
Yeah. And one of the things was like the NPCs, when you have to rely on an NPC character to unlock, sometimes they would just freeze and then suddenly turn into like the ghosts from Silent Hill 4, where they would be like off the ground and floating, and then you'd have to wait like 5 minutes before them to snap out of it and like, oh yeah, I have to unlock this door for you. And there were some annoying things like that, but it was on one computer I played it on and not the other, so I have no idea what exactly in my setup did that. But and then there was the final boss where the Ties That Bind, where he switches between 2 forms, and I had to abuse save states to beat him for whatever reason, because I could not land a blow on him. And at that moment, I saved the game, and then saved back. He had halfway transformed, so he was just in the mid-transformation, and he was normal, but he had limbs that were like swinging at me. It was weird.
That's great.
So anyway, it's the bugs and the crashing really kind of hampered my enjoyment of it, but I can get into my full assessment of it in a little bit later, if you want to discuss more.
It's very interesting, because the console versions, I think, are terrible looking in retrospect, because they're so dark you can't see anything.
Yeah,
they're so.
At least you have a flashlight.
You can turn up the contrast and brightness and all that, but that washes out what the game's supposed to look like. And the PC versions fix this and add HD options, which actually ran really great on my computer, which almost never happens. But also the bugs. Mm-hmm. Especially in the first one. Oh god.
Yeah. I don't
think I had any bugs on the PS2 in the first one, and then the second one I had the one where like the game crashed a few times, and it's not a bug, but there is a bad glitch, a very, very bad glitch at the end of a boss fight that I will get to when we talk about the second game.
Okay. And
I think the only problem I had with the first game is if you enter the fight with the guard captain who's killing all the inmates incorrectly. Dallas gets locked behind the gate and you can't get him back out and help him escape.
Oops.
Oh. Oh, and there's that one inmate who's trapped behind rocks, and he's an inmate who's... There's like 2 or 3 chapters where some guy is throwing TNT at you, which is understandable because he thinks that you're an enemy or a guard. But then he ends up trapping himself with the TNT, and your wife is like... Well, the vision of your wife is like, he needs help, you should get him out. And it's really hard to blowing up the rock that's trapping him without also just blowing him up with TNT, because he's standing right next to it. So I had to try and free him like 5 times, and every time you fail, you just hear your wife's like, "I hate you, Talk." And it's like, I don't care.
Yeah, can you tell this was a mid-2000s Midway game?
Yeah.
Despite all the bugs with it, I still really love the first one. It does so much right, and like, that might be the earliest game I know of that had a canon gay character that I played, which is kind of sad, but he's also awesome gay character, which, that's fine.
Yeah.
Dallas is my second favorite character in this game after the Russian guard Dmitri who's smoking weed. And just like, don't worry about the monsters. You want Toke?
I have more mixed feelings on it, just because, I realize most horror games from the early 2000s to mid 2000s are very flawed. Like the classic one, Silent Hill 2, I am convinced is an unfinished game that they just, painted over the unfinished parts, because Dark Silent Hill is Silent Hill with the lights off most of the time, and they're...
Oh, the first game did that too with the Night Town.
But the first Silent Hill, also when you went to Dark Silent Hill, there was the Machine Town. Or it turned into a Dark Machine Nightmare instead of just being regular Silent Hill with the lights off.
Dark Machine Flesh Nightmare.
Yeah. So, but then Silent Hill 2, it's just like, we are walking through the town in Dark Silent Hill, it's just lights are off, and like the boss fight with the 2 pyramid heads at the end is like, you don't have to fire a shot until 2 minutes in, and you fire 1 shot and it's dead. And it's a lot of odd design and stuff that makes it feel like it was unfinished, but it is still a classic of the genre. So it's not that it's, if there are flaws with a horror game, I can deal with that, because most of them are extremely flawed games, unfortunately.
Except Resident Evil 4.
The one people also bring up is Eternal Darkness, because, Nintendo was on Gygas's ass, or whoever that, I forget his name, but... Gaiac, that's who it was, but...
Dennis Dyack.
The
creator of X-Men Destiny.
Yes. But I'm not even that big of a fan of Eternal Darkness, but because the gameplay is fantastic. It's just like the little vignettes are, they add up to a little bit more, but the stories are like, this princess wanders into this temple randomly and becomes a great old one because she does. Shut the fuck up. And that's how most of the short stories work. And once you figure out the sanity meter, it's just like, once I see the strings in a game, it's over. Like, once I know how this works, it's like, it's not scary to me. So, but I am alone at this table of, I didn't really like Eternal Darkness that much. But anyway.
Oh, no, you're not alone.
Okay.
Hey!
It hasn't held up that great. Like, it was really inventive for the time, but now looking back on it, you realize it's doing shit that Pony Island did better. Which is...
I think I just really liked it because right before I tried to play the Resident Evil remake, and I bring it up every time I bring up we're covering all the Resident Evil games. It's just the one where I walked in and I'm like, there's a zombie, pull out your gun! And I pull out my gun, I'm aiming at his torso. And I go, and I think, I better aim up, shoot for the head. And I aim up, and Chris Redfield is pointing his gun like 90 degrees upwards.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why? Why are you...
Why are professional cops like this?
And then you play Eternal Darkness, and it's like, aim up, and you aim up, and it highlights the head.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm playing as an unarmed princess who wandered into a temple, and right now she is kicking Chris Redfield's ass.
Yeah, and... But
you can make all the arguments you want about Resident Evil's scariness coming from you being controlling like shit. and then just go Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, scooting back to our topic at hand. So, it's an imperfect game. It kind of controls weirdly.
Oh, absolutely.
The melee is crap.
Oh, yeah.
And I have trouble aiming with a mouse and keyboard. I miss my controller. And
you're playing a shooter and you're having trouble with the mouse and keyboard.
Yes. Yeah.
I love the mouse and keyboard for every shooter. I can't go back to controllers now. Borderlands was so easy to get headshots off in with a mouse.
But that's not my issue. My issue was the experience itself. I could see what they were going for, but it got constantly messed up by a few things. And one is they will have layer upon layer of things happening at once where I can't pay attention to one thing. Like, you'll have your wife like talking to you, T, you need to help this person, when the person is trying to talk to you. And I'm trying to understand what they're saying. And then you're having, the visions of the monsters. And then you're having the phone ringing. And then there's this conversation that triggered in another room. And you're hearing the monsters. And what am I supposed to pay attention to? And the atmosphere gets really wrecked sometimes because they didn't plan out how they want you to emotionally react. Like, if you're in, say, the room in Silent Hill 3 with the dummy, you go in, you see the dummy, and it's like, oh, that is interesting, let's look at it. And then you're like, oh, this thing looks really lifelike. And then, okay, I need to see if there's any other loot in the room. And then you go to the end of the room, and then you hear the screaming, and then you go back and then you see the dummy whose brains are splattered all over the floor, and it's like, that just happened. So there's nothing like that anchors it, that where, okay, we need to get this experience. So you're just having everything thrown at you at once, which just kind of ruins it. I mean, the only things are when you have Dr. Killjoy by himself, and he kind of is theatrical and wants the attention, so he's the only person. So that where the game kind of gets sharpened a little bit, but the rest of the experience kind of gets muddled. And also, the gameplay, at least for me, is extremely choppy, and you have to abuse saves because I don't know if I'd say it's a hard game. It's a hard game if you are trying to be a good person, because I had terrible experiences with the other AI. Like, there's the character Consuela, who is the one of the villagers on the island, because there's also a village there because they need places for the prison guards family to stay. And she's the wife of one of the prison guards. And she also does the archive stuff, who, takes out all of the ambiguity of the game, but I digress. So you have to save her husband near the end of the game, where everything is getting super hard and you have to go through gauntlets of six or
God, I know what you're talking about.
And then Consuela's husband wants to die. He walked in front of my shots. He walks in front. He will just like stand still and start shooting at this thing that is wailing on him until he just gets his head chopped off. And
don't even get me started on the cave with the fire spirits.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the one morality thing that I didn't get 100%. Mm-hmm. Everything else, I got all of the morality in the game.
It took me so long to do that.
So,
and even when I did it, it's because there's that cave. It has 3 prisoners in it, and I got to the end of it barely alive, and I had saved 2 of them, and I was like, I'm half an hour away from finishing the game.
Yeah,
that's fine. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, it's so the game kind of stutters like that, where there are hard parts that bottleneck the experience, and especially if you're trying to be good, and you have to like abuse save states where, okay, I'm going to save here, and then I'm going to get through this and save here, and it constantly messes with the experience, because you're supposed to be running up to the climax. It's like you're supposed to be full of adrenaline, and I am just annoyed right now. So it's like I could see what they were going for, and there's sometimes I could really get into it, but it just the experience would constantly stop and start, and it would mess with me, and I didn't get all of it that I feel I could, and that also the game crashing your entire computer didn't help. So it's I mean, it's very mixed. I can see where it's going, but it doesn't really deliver for me. And also, I am used to like me being able to figure out what these monsters represent. Like the in the Silent Hill games, it took people forever to get like an actual interpretation. Like in Silent Hill 2, it is very clear now what the boss of Angela's father is. I mean, everybody kind of knows, and it's like one of the oh fuck of video games. When Silent Hill 2 came out, and it was just on the PlayStation 2, and you know we couldn't get HD screens of it, people called that boss the Doorman, and you know they didn't have a firm interpretation of it yet because they didn't give it to you. And in this game, you actually have a file that literally tells you what everything means. And this is what...
Well, they worked hard on it. They gotta let you know.
I know. But, you know, the Japanese worked hard on it too. And they really worked hard to let you know the disturbing details of what Angela's father is doing as a boss. And they didn't feel the need to tell you, but it's one of those that tells you outright everything what it means, and you don't have to think, and we'll do all this, and you know, you have a little book that even tells you. So it.
Well, for me, I kind of like that more because it fit more with the theme of this game. Like, for Silent Hill, it's way more serious and psychological at all times. It's trying to be something you quite don't understand at first glance. But the Suffering is like, no. Here's a weird man with blade arms and a head put together by dental equipment, and he's here to kill you. Deal with it. It's very B horror. It's like high-end B horror, but it's still B horror, and it's not about subtlety. It's about, look at all this crazy shit, and getting you to know what all these ghosts are about is just a way to get you more into all this cool stuff you're seeing. So it's less like it wants to get under your skin, more like it's more like, I guess, like how do I put this? It's less like The Thing and more like I'm having trouble. Okay, it's less like Resident Evil and more like Resident Evil 4. That's terrible.
All right, I mean it's
more like Resident Evil 3 with Nemesis, because like you can tell what Nemesis is right away, and it's still scary.
Yeah.
If we can find a way to work in Resident Evil 2, then we've done all of the numbered games.
Hang on. Give me a sec here.
While we're giving you a second, it's just like...
because there's also an evil doctor in Resident Evil 2.
Hi.
Oh, yeah. Just like in The Suffering.
We did it.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's kind of a horror philosophy where if you know what it is, it becomes less scary. Like where the moment horror games or horror movies or horror whatever becomes less scary is when you know what they are, and so it's kind of a horror philosophy too. So
that is generally the case for me, but including in this game. But there are still moments where even though you know what you're dealing with, it's there are still moments where it's like, okay, you know what you're dealing with. Tough fucking luck. Here's 10,000 enemies coming at you from in the dark, and you only have a single turret. Deal with it.
And
when I got to that late game sequence on the PS2 where I could barely see anything, and I was out of batteries for my flashlight, it scared the shit out of me.
And
I like The Suffering. I think I like The Suffering quite a lot, but I would say it's a little bit too much of a horror game to be a successful action game. It's a little bit too much action for it to be a really good horror game for me. Because all my favourite horror games have been like The Haunting Ground, Clock Tower, The First Fear, Outlast. I want to say Alien Isolation as an example, even though I haven't played it. But just because in all of those games it's like you hear a noise and you shit yourself and you run as fast as you can and you hide. And in The Suffering, I hear a noise, I turn around, I'm dual-wielding a shotgun and an assault rifle.
Alien Isolation,
I blast
you do have weapons and they do help you, but you can't kill what's after you. You can only, stave off your elimination. And that's what I really liked about it, is I don't like hide and seek stuff. I don't like this being useless because it feels like a device. But if you have like Alien Isolation, really, you can do things, but it's still after you, and that's the worst. And that's the worst part of it. And there is like one gloriously horrifying thing I am not going to spoil for anybody, but I do love that game.
Yeah, and it was the kind of thing where even in the suffering, when I did feel overwhelmed, and it was like, you're running low on ammo, you might not have enough to deal with all these terrifying monsters, it wasn't like, oh no, I'm scared. It was more like, ugh, I'm mildly irritated. Guess I'm going to kill myself and reload a checkpoint.
No, my heart raced at points. Like, it's a similar thing Resident Evil 4 did with me. Actually, a similar thing that Alan Wake did with me a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, I would compare it a lot to Alan Wake and how it's approaching horror, because neither are like particularly scary in a traditional sense, but they're both very tense to play through. They're both action games at the core, but the mechanics are retextualized in a way that there's still a sense of survival to it. There's still a sense that you, despite how powerful you are, you're not powerful enough to deal with what you're dealing with. It's not as strong here in the suffering, but I'm willing to forgive that a little because of the time it came out. Like for B tier horror game released in 2004, this is shockingly good to me. The soundtrack I think is fantastic. The monster designs are fantastic. A lot of the presentation choices are really creative, especially for that era. It captures this style of horror I haven't really seen captured well since like Splatterhouse. It's just like, it hits a lot of notes for me that make it gel with me, if I guess you could say. And I think with the stuff that the sequel does, if they ever brought back the suffering and rebooted it, there is a lot of really interesting stuff you could do with like race politics in the story sense, and like make it a sort of like horrifically violent Silent Hill sort of thing. There's potential there, and I like to see all of this revisited one day.
The game I keep comparing it to in my head, since we're now just listing every horror game in existence, let's just do it, novelty. And I keep comparing it to Manhunt, just because in my head they're both quite of the similar era PS2 survival horror, but kind of action games. And while Manhunt has an advantage in that it has genuine stealth gameplay before the action, the Suffering definitely has a better narrative, and I really like the morality choices. But at the same time, walking into a situation in the Suffering and having a bunch of enemies jump out didn't make me as scared as walking into an area in Manhunt and seeing like 3 red dots on the map and knowing that they were just regular people walking around in a pre-programmed pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on to tie us that bind, since we're getting way more material out of this than I expected.
Should we do the ending to the first one? Because there's a lot.
Oh, we already did. Because like you get to the boat, and either you are good and you go with the boatman and leave, and there's a sequel bait where it mentions someone named Blackmore. And let's see, the neutral path, I think you knock out or accidentally kill the boatman and get off the island, and in the evil path you just kill the boatman and then go back in the woods screaming like wild animal as a monster man. It's like, woo woo, I killed my family, yeah!
Yeah, but what about how the morality affects whether Torque did kill his family? Did we cover that?
Oh yeah, he didn't kill him in the good ending, but it was this Blackmore man who framed him. The evil ending, he did it because evil man. And in the neutral, crazy shit happened.
He killed his wife by accident because she fell over.
Yeah, he killed his wife by accident because he struck her in a fit of rage. And his son, one of his sons, was starting to hate him so much that he took his own life and also killed the brother in the process.
I don't want to spend too long on obviously the first game, but the one thing that I found kind of weird in the first game is just, I know it's my own fault because I'm reading into a mixture of the game mechanics and the narrative, so it's my own fault for looking into it, but there's just something really weird about the feeling of like, oh, if you get the good ending, it turns out you didn't kill your family, some other people killed your family, and you were framed for it. And it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, Torque, you got the neutral ending because you didn't help that stoner get the radio working in his room. If you'd helped him get the radio working, you wouldn't have killed your wife. But turns out you did. Whoa.
Okay.
I kind of wish part of me kind of wishes the morality system was changed so like only the neutral ending was canon overall, because that's the most interesting path when you get into the sequel by a mile. Especially because if you do the good path, there's a weird moment in the second game that suggests the bad guy who's like, go kill all the family, finds out one of the kids was killed that he didn't want to kill. It's like, no, I didn't say that. What?
I saw that in the good ending, and instead it's like, did you give the family a message for me? He goes, oh yeah, boss, we killed them all. And he's like, no, I literally meant deliver a message for me. Oh, what did you do? Nothing. What the hell did you? It was ambiguous, okay?
So yeah, let's talk about the suffering ties that bind.
I just like the idea of Torque walking around with a shopping list, and he's like, if I help 3 more old ladies cross the road, I won't have killed my wife. And he just gives himself a little peppy thumbs up, and he's like, okay, time to go find some old ladies.
The Suffering Ties That Bind picks up, was made in, was released a year after the first game, and during that time Resident Evil 4 came out, so it was dead in the water.
Yeah.
But for Ties That Bind, as I mentioned before, the writer for the first game, Richard Rouse III, ended up taking direction duty, and it takes place right after the first game, where Torque is either escaping on the boat with the knocked out guardman, or is with the guardman, or he's being forced on the boat by Killjoy somehow. It was like, no man, you can't go live in the woods as an evil, violent monster. We gotta fix you. Let's take you to a city.
Let's take you to the city of Baltimore. That will help you.
And yes, we find out Torque is originally from Baltimore, and things instantly kind of jump the shark right away,
yes.
Because you get taken in by weird soldier men in gas masks who are apparently capturing the malefactors, which was like, okay. And then, but it quickly picked up for me as you realize that this game is now about Torque trying to figure out more about his past, who he is, and what's happened to him. And most importantly, the villain of the game, Blackmore, who is apparently responsible for all the things that have happened in Torque's life. And I do like how the game starts out in a flashback sequence in a Baltimore prison where you see Blackmore and Torque interacting. But I don't like... There's one thing I don't like. In the PC version, because it's not dark as shit, you can actually see one particular character say something and know it's them that said it, and that spoils the entire giant twist at the end of the game. Because, oh, it's that voice.
There were quite a few things I didn't like about this game. I'm only going to quickly cover the ones that are different from the first game, because I have a feeling that in a few weeks' time I will look back on this quite fondly and think, Ties That Bind, it's not as good as the first one, but it's a pretty good game. It's not bad. It's still definitely worth checking out.
I think
That's how I'll feel in a few...
I think it's better written and had a better vision for what it wanted to be, and I do like some of the gameplay changes, but I don't think it, matches up to the first game in terms of atmosphere.
The narrative is a good extension of it, of the original. But I think the game,
especially if you're doing neutral path.
yeah. But if you, just as a gameplay, it feels a little stymied because it's
They made it in like less than a year.
yeah, they made it in less than a year, and also it's ammo, cache, and then you go to kill box, ammo cache and kill box, and then it's just like it's too hard, well abused save states, and it's very stop and go, and it doesn't. Like I said, the flow gets messed up a lot, and it gets messed up a lot more because you get stuck on places like.
Oh yeah, I did definitely suggest you play this one on an easier difficulty because it's a bitch. I found that out when I played it on my Xbox. It kept fucking dying in the segment before you enter the theater.
Yes, that from then on it becomes
that was ridiculous.
Terribly difficult. Like there are difficult spikes, and then it's just like it's a spike that just sits there for the rest of the game.
It took me forever to figure out that on the console version that there was an ammo box I could go back to keep getting pistol ammo because it's so dark on the console version.
Yeah,
it's actually darker than it was in the first game. You can barely tell what's happening in the intro segment in the prison because after a while it makes for a good atmosphere, but it also means you can't see what's happening.
Yeah, although what also bothered me is I've been to Baltimore, and it's definitely not an accurate representation. It's a super squished PS2 version of Baltimore, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. But,
Yeah, but what can you do?
It's mid-2000s. It wasn't like when, it was before Grand Theft Auto 4 came out and had this giant recreation of New York City, and I've been like, oh, I've been on that street. And it's not even like one of the main streets.
I should mention that the villain is played by Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise I found in the credits. Although I should have realized
I think he calls someone a jive-ass sucker at one point.
I miss that man.
Yeah, I said I would really look back fondly on this game in a few weeks. That's because I finished it less than 5 hours ago. So right now I still think it sucks.
I like the jive sucker line because he sells it. He fucking sells every single word that comes out of his mouth.
Oh yes,
that line is good. Everything else. One thing I really like about how rushed it was is how they bring back all of the enemies from the first game. Only they try and now say, oh, this isn't representative of like the execution in prison. The weird guys with stabby knives. This is now about knife crime. Yeah, it's about the knife crime in Baltimore. And those guys with syringes, that's not lethal injection. Now they're just all on drugs. The fact that they are identical to the lethal injection guys, and it's literally the exact same monster from the first game. It's all about Baltimore.
I don't mind the mainliners as much because there was also the general drug addiction thing kind of going on in the first game too. So although it is kind of cheap, that one is just a blatant reuse. But then they get a little more creative with some of the other redesigns, the weird, the guys who died by firing squad are now weird spider monsters that carry Uzis.
And then the people who still died from firing squad, the marksmen, they're still there.
Oh yeah.
So now you just have two enemies that you can't shoot at without them being able to shoot at you.
Yeah, they do change a lot of designs. I do like the designs of the two main ghosts in this game, though. Copperfield is very simple. He was a slave catcher who's apparently after Torque because Torque might be a descendant of one of his old targets. I'm not entirely sure, but it hints heavily at it. Especially that part where he shoots one of your friends through a door and that friend comes back later fine. That surprised the shit out of me the first time it happened, and he mentions that he's never lost to Mark. And he keeps appearing throughout the game, just treating people like animals and slaughtering them while giving big dumb speeches, and that is exactly what I imagine a slave catcher would sound like.
Yeah.
Just a giant violent asshole. And he has these weird dogs that are basically the slaves he's captured that have human heads. Those were fucked up. And then you have the Creeper, who is Jesus Christ.
Blood is the best lubricant.
That guy. What if 4chan was a person and also a murderer?
Yeah. He is basically...
And
Have you
it
seen
works
the end of his boss
it's
fight?
more uncomfortable than you think it would be.
Yeah, he is the Jack the Ripper of Baltimore. And he has returned
It's that much more Uncle Fester, but...
But he has returned as a spirit, and his dick is his killing weapon, and it has the tortured soul of one of his murdered prostitutes attached to it.
Yeah, he's...
Also, other characters can interact with him now.
Yeah.
That was what freaked me out the most.
Oh, yes.
Is that at one point, evil scientist Dr. Jordan is talking to you. And we'll get onto her for about 30 seconds, because that's all she's worth. And she's just talking to you through a wall, and then the creeper just comes up behind her, and she sees him and runs away. And it's like, oh wait, can you all see these guys too? Are they ghosts? Are they undead? I don't know. A lot of the questions that I was happy to leave up in the air in the first game are now making me think, wait, what?
I actually did like that because it fits better with the theming of this game series. Because, like, in Silent Hill, it's very clear that what you're seeing is from a certain perspective, and what everyone else is seeing might be something different. But with the Suffering, the malefactors are not manifestations of your feelings, they're manifestations of actual people who have existed, or like the collective blood and death of a particular form of murder. So the fact that other people can now definitely see all versions of the malefactors and the various ghosts haunting the area makes more sense to me. And it also fits better because it means more violence is going on and more chaos is happening, which fits better with the whole evil abominations of mankind thing going on.
Should we get to Dr. Jordan?
Oh yeah,
Oh god.
She's dating Blackmore, but nobody cares. She's an afterthought.
I'm an evil scientist. I'm obsessed with the malefactors because reasons.
Look at my fur coat.
Yeah.
And by the
She's
way,
almost she's even more useless than the scientist lady that Wesker had in Resident Evil 5. That he just like gives a full dose of Ouroboros and she turns into a giant blob monster.
My favourite bit with Dr. Jordan. I say favourite bit with her. She's like in the game three times.
Oh, she does drive you around and lets you go nuts on monsters with
But yeah,
with a turret. That's fun.
That's the great bit, because I was doing a good playthrough, just because I did a good playthrough for the first game, and it carried over, so I didn't really see the point in changing. And there's a bit where she's supposed to be in charge of this organisation where they're obsessed with the malefactors, and they're catching them and catching you, and a bunch of guards are shooting at you, and she reverses a truck through a gate and screams, "Quick, get on!" And there's a turret on there, and then she drives you around, and she's saying, "Blackmore's taken over my organisation, he was funding them, but now they've betrayed me. We gotta get them or something, and I'll take you to Blackmore." And while you're driving, you shoot dozens of trucks with her men on, you shoot dozens of the men on the streets, you shoot some regular monsters, and then she doesn't quite deliver you to the prison. She kind of crashes there, and you're separated.
Because of the giant hell monster coming out of hell.
The Horde.
But then later in the game, she just shows up in a helicopter, and she's like, "Ha! You really thought that my men betrayed me? No, it was just a ploy." And I remember thinking, oh no, wait! It was a ploy, and all I did was drive around and shoot up lots of your men. It's not like I walked into her and she was like, "Hey, Talk, it's a good thing that we're on the same side now. Hey, look over there," and then she stabs you in the back or something. Instead, she just drives you around.
It's worth noting that your current morality actually changes a lot of events in the games, including whether she lives or dies.
Yeah, she died in mine just because she eventually became one of the regulars. She survived a helicopter going down. She just jumped out of it.
Not just
like
going
it was
down,
no biggie.
exploding.
Yep. And she just jumps out and hops on a turret.
Yeah, but it's Baltimore. Doesn't that happen all the time in Baltimore?
This is like...
But yeah, I just...
Oh, you think the wire's messed up? We're gonna jam all of the wire into this little game, and then some.
And also, here's an urban legend about a priest man who served his parishioners' corpses.
Yeah. That's one of the things... I mean,
that might actually have happened at some point in history, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, that's more than I can say for the first game, where it feels like they were adding too much on it. Like, you have the prison, where
like the fire girls.
And then you have this village where these girls, falsely accuse people of being witchcraft. And then it's a Nazi POW camp. where a Nazi spy plane crashed, and then these soldiers were falsely accused of being spies and shot, and then there's all of this stuff, and it's like, okay, you're just adding stuff to be silly now, and I mean, this feels more...
I think the military base thing in the old slave ship was enough.
Yeah, and they just went too far with the witches and the villains. Just like, oh, you crossed the line. But
in Baltimore, it makes more sense because it's an entire city filled with all sorts of abominations throughout history. And you're like, okay, I can understand why all this
makes sense. It's like
happened.
Mob violence, slavers, gun violence, street violence, drug addict. This makes sense, and it's an entire city.
Oh, I love the scene where you first get introduced to the mainliners in this game, especially if you've helped that drug addict guy, and while he's shooting up, the camera just shifts, and you see the mainliner slowly rising out of a puddle of blood.
Yes.
And then you shoot it with a shotgun.
Oh god, can I say that I really love the camera work and all these cutscenes in this one. They do some really good shots, especially in the theater when you're first seeing the screen and it's doing that shot where it's looking up at everything. Like, there was I don't remember anything that cool looking in the first game. They really upped their game on the presentation wise.
I hated that I couldn't fight the Creeper and I've got him down as the Collector. Don't know why I got that wrong, because you said his name's Copperhead.
No, Copperfield.
Copperfield. Copperhead's the Spider-Man from this. Anyway, but yeah, you can only fight the Creeper or David Copperfield. You cannot fight.
David Copperfield,
and like David Copperfield, he
hunter.
teleports around like shit.
Yeah.
There's only two main villains in the... Oh, okay, I guess there's Blackmore too. And I'm not sure if you count the helicopter that Juan is in as a villain.
Okay, so like
yeah,
in the first game there were 3 ghosts, and the main villain was Torque's inner herself, and the 3 ghosts represent different morality. In this game, it's not that clear cut. I won't spoil the big twist yet. We'll get into that in a bit, but I kind of understood what the idea was behind fighting Copperfield on good and neutral and fighting the Creeper on evil. Because if you fight the Creeper on evil, you're basically fighting a twisted reflection of your own evil deeds. Because even though the motivations are different, you're honestly not much better than that fucking asshole. And for Copperfield,
I feel like it was.
And for Copperfield, it's a thing of justice because this game does make it clear that Torque is black or at least biracial, and Copperfield is a slave hunter. So wild guess why you're fighting him.
I feel like it was just more that maybe they were rushed. But did you see the end of the Creeper's boss fight? That was very creepy.
Oh yeah, where the ladies are fucking eating him?
Yeah, and then there's that beam of light.
And he's kind of into it, and
Yeah. Yeah, but he then he
kudos
like,
on the
up.
game for not doing the usual video game thing where they would normally make that sex scene like make it the most fucking disturbing thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about like when the beam of light comes down and he starts hovering up.
Oh yeah.
Did you? Because he starts hovering in this beam of light, and then this big voice comes down, and it goes, "Mr. Kavanaugh, your seat on the Supreme Court is ready." And he just teleports away.
Too soon.
Mr. Kavanaugh, is it true that you have murdered dozens of women and keep them in your coat of horrors?
I like beer.
I don't remember.
I like beer.
According to this calendar, I was working out with Squee.
I was hanging out with the slave catcher, you see, on that time.
Okay, anyway.
And live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Anyway, since we're going over time and we probably need to stay on track.
No, we're not going over time. We're actually doing just fine.
Okay.
Hooray!
It's going to be a long episode, but it's a special. Let's go for it.
All right. Yeah. So, anyways,
I can complain about the horrible collector boss fight.
Yeah. Oh, I had to.
The boss fights are not good.
No, I had to abuse save states, and even if you do that,
me too.
The dog maulers, like they'll teleport between save states, and they'll be 5 feet away before you save, but after you save, they'll be munching on you, and it's like, oh shit. And then you have to.
I had a save state where I had to move as soon as it loaded.
Yeah.
I say save state. I was just saving manually.
Yeah, just saving
on the
manually.
PS2.
I do that too, because I play too much emulation.
I'm mixed on the changes made in this game for combat, because I like that it now limits you to 2 weapons at a time, because it makes you think about more of what you might need and what you like using. And so you're not just like with a giant armory with plenty of ammo all the time and you don't have to worry as much. It makes combat more nail-biting, but the increased difficulty also makes it much more frustrating at times. And the melee stuff is almost always useless.
I never found myself thinking like, oh, I'm running out of ammo. This is getting pretty tense. I just found myself thinking, oh, I'm running out of ammo. For fuck's sake. Stupid.
I really wish they didn't have the whole evil organization bullshit, because I don't want to fight regular guys in a horror game where like hell is literally opening up in the streets.
And while we're listing all the horror games ever made, it's like Silent Hill Homecoming, where you, in the middle of the game, where you suddenly start fighting cult people, and like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And there was at least one part in the Copperfield fight where I feel like it's still been way too, like I said, finished it 5 hours ago. So it's still way too soon for me to laugh, but you might get some fun out of this. Because after you beat that fight, which incidentally is after 5 separate waves of enemies, very difficult enemies, then the last thing you have to do is, once you beat him, then it goes back to Blackmore, and he has your son or something, and he throws him into this pool, which is filled with poison or something. And the correct thing to do is jump into the pool, and you take a tiny bit of damage, but then it fades out and it just goes straight into the next chapter. I was on exceptionally low health when I finished the boss fight. I thought, yes, finally it's done. Now I just need to jump into this pool and, okay, it's fading, it's going to the next chapter, and just as it's going to the next chapter, I hear Talkie go like, "Ugh, ugh," and then it reloads in the middle of the boss fight.
Shit.
I died in the fade out because I was on such low health that the poison killed me.
And by the way,
to be fair,
I should note that it's called the Drowning Pool. So let the bodies hit the flow. Let the bodies hit the flow.
Do you remember when Disturbed made that song that was that was just all about puberty, and there's a breakdown in the middle of it where they're whining like a 12-year-old white boy yelling at their mom because they have an erection?
Oh god.
No, that does sound Disturbed.
And then it kind of goes into they might be getting abused by their parents thing, but they're still doing the dumb voice the whole time.
Oh god.
Sounds like they were inspired by Linkin Park.
How did Disturbed ever get popular?
I only have a couple notes left about like differences between the first game. One thing that I did like in this one, nobody I escorted ever died. That might just be because I was more careful, but yeah, they seem to take a few more hits.
Except for the guy in the prison, the warden.
Yeah.
He has like no health.
He has no
But he has a really awesome revolver.
Yeah, he has a really awesome revolver, but the problem is he will walk in front of the marksman or the marksman spin-offs and they will just blow his ass away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have the problem that I had with the first game on those.
I did like a lot of the writing and some of the character stuff. And I like how the residents of Baltimore react in a realistic way. Like, my favorite bit is probably when you enter the corner store building and 2 guys are just not letting you in that room for obvious reasons until you've taken care of the monsters. But then Copperfield just shows up and kills one of them. You manage to save the other, but he's pissed that you weren't able to save his friend. And like, he probably understands that you couldn't have done anything, but he's caught in grief, and like, that's a very human moment. So like, that makes sense to me.
I did like how, because there's some of the slayers are grey and they can only be destroyed by the monster, and since that let me know that I could use the monster more liberally, then I was able to use it in more difficult fights. But then as a counterpoint, some of the other grey monsters are very annoying. Like right before the final chapter, you have to fight some of the marksmen, some of the spidery marksmen, some of the ones that do massive damage. And yeah, you have to You have to fight one grey one, so you have to build up enough insanity to transform, then kill it, then transform back, because the second one will show up, but it will not show up quickly enough for you to kill it with your initial transformation, so then you have to wait for him to summon another marksman, kill one, to get enough insanity
that is
to kill
most of the final encounters of the game, is like, okay, we have this evil thing that can only be killed by the monster, and then, another one pops up after you transformed, and it's just...
That is annoying, but I do appreciate the changes they made to the monster form, like how it actually changes what it does and what it has on it based on your morality. Mm-hmm. Like how the good version has chains and so forth.
Right, real quick, the things from the... I feel like I'm paying the first game a compliment in a way, because here's the things that they... Not just things I didn't like, but things that they changed. I was not a big fan of how you now only have 2 weapons, especially because now, if you use a melee weapon, that counts as one of the 2. So if you want to carry an axe, then you only have 1 gun.
Oh, so you're a Doom man and not a Halo man.
Yeah. I just, every time
Damn
I play,
right I
like
am.
13.
Understandable, but I think in a horror situation, Halo rules.
I know.
More.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you bring up Halo and Doom, it's like, yeah, I'm going to pick Doom every time.
I never got to deal with Halo. I just found it okay.
I tried the first one for half an hour.
You really need other people with Halo, and I have no friends, so...
I tried it multiplayer with someone, and we just kept killing the NPCs. And then we just got to a big old canyon where nothing was there, so we stopped.
Okay.
You can no longer carry Zombium for health recovery stuff that you chug like Max Payne.
I actually like that too, because it increases tension, because you do have to be smarter instead of just carrying around a bunch of painkiller vitamins to make the bad stuff go away.
It was annoying how if you find them in groups, sometimes you'll find like 2 of them, and sometimes I would think, I need 1 healing, definitely, but I don't want to waste the second one getting back a pixel of health.
But then just goes right into you.
Now I need to approach one of them, but not approach the other one, and then both of them just vanish. And then you stub your toe on the way out and you're not at full health anymore. And the last thing is that, this was a cool thing in the first game. At Chapter 5, I think, there's a guard with a shotgun who gets killed, and I wanted to go get the shotgun, but first I wanted to check out a door. Turned out to be the door to the next chapter. So I panicked and immediately turned around and went through, and I was convinced, the gun, it won't still be there, it won't still be there, it will have deloaded or something. And it was still there, which was great. And at the end of one of the chapters of this game, there's a morality thing where there's a woman who wants to get to her baby in a room, but it's filled with mainliners. And I thought I'd killed all of them, and there was one more, and I thought, it might be behind this door, and I go through that door, and it's the end of chapter door, and it immediately locks behind you. I had already missed out on saving Scott Menville, the drug addict in that level, so that was one where I thought, I'm just going to reload it and do it again. And then it's weird, because when you do save the baby...
You did a great job, Torque, dead baby.
Yeah, she just walks in, and then I genuinely thought I'd done something wrong, mainly because I walked over there to see the woman and her baby as it happened, and just as I'm walking over there, then suddenly it plays this, there's a spooky image, and then it turns out the baby wasn't there, and the woman starts screaming, "Where's my baby?" And my first reaction was, oh god, did I just step on the baby? Oh no!
And then your wife's like, you did your best.
Yeah, my wife's just like, great job! And I'm like, my wife likes that I step on babies? Is this why I did or didn't kill her?
I led the addict to his drug shack. Good job, Torque.
To be fair, he was probably gonna die if you left him there. I mean, now he's sure he's shooting out now, but at least you'll probably be safe, and if he does come out of it, might be a chance you'll get better, who knows.
It's exceptionally petty of me, but the drug guy is voiced by Scott Menville. Scott Menville is most famous for being Lloyd Irving and Robin from Teen Titans. Robin in Teen Titans is canonically Dick Grayson, who grows up to be Nightwing, who was just in a death battle against Daredevil, and they don't know shit about Daredevil, idiots, so I shot Scott Menville a few times. Just to vent some frustrations. Okay. You don't know shit about Matt Murdock.
Okay.
I have a healthy relationship with my mind.
Should we go ahead and get into the spoilers for this one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so the big twist in the Suffering Ties That Bind is that
Fight Club!
Blackmore is actually Torque's second personality. And what I do like, if you go back and look at the cutscenes with this knowledge, you can get little hints where because nobody's actually interacting with Blackmore. You're just assuming they kind of are because they're like carrying out his orders, or like someone's more busy with one of his henchmen than him himself. And Torque is clearly interacting with him, but in reality, Blackmore is a second personality Torque developed. It's kind of complicated, but he's basically... How should I put this without sounding stupid?
Just say Fight Club.
No, like it's implied Blackmore was like sort of Torque's childhood friend, imaginary friend as a kid, a way to to cope with his bad situation, but because Torque is kind of not right in the head, Blackmore eventually manifested into the worst parts of Torque over time, and so the two led separate lives. Torque trying to have a normal life, and Blackmore creating this criminal empire in the background, and eventually hiring Torque somehow because Torque is nutty. And so Torque was able to support his family by working for his second personality,
who was himself.
No, it's two personalities. It's not really himself. It's just like the personality inside of him.
How did he get hired? That's like one hell of a job interview.
Once again, the nutty part. Probably got a phone call or something. Or they just chatted inside of his mind and he thought he was talking to an actual physical person and not a person inside of his head. And eventually they have a falling out, and depending on your morality from the first game, that depends on what happened. I think Torque was hired in the evil ending, was ordered to kill his family because he was going soft. And the neutral one, Blackmore, basically drugged one of his kids and manipulated him to turn him against his father, leading him to do that horrible thing to his brother and himself. And also, Torque really did kill his wife by accident in a fit of anger. And in the good ending, Blackmore was the person who had it carried out, except he just wanted to put his scare in Torque, and the guards were stupid and just killed everyone.
It's not entirely silly. I don't want to keep yelling Fight Club because it's nowhere near as dumb as them.
I think it's done fairly well, all things considered. It's just explained in an awkward way. And I do like how it's eventually revealed where one of Torque's best friends that you meet in the first flashback, who was there when Torque got arrested for Blackmore's manipulations, and and you meet with and helps you out throughout the game, eventually points a gun at Torque, is very clearly tense around him towards the end of the game, and it's becoming clear why that, and you start putting it together in your head what's going on.
I just like how the very first thing in the game is where you're in a prison yard with Miles, and then these guys come over and they say, "Hey, we got a message from Blackmore. He says that he doesn't think you two, in the right frame of mind for we're angry." And I just like the idea that Torque, as Blackmore, just went up to these guys and was like, "Hey, in half an hour you're gonna see me playing dominoes, and I want you to come over and be like, oi, dickhead, you suck. It'll be fine. It'll be just go with it, okay?
And
trust me."
That is actually what happened, because you do get to meet one of those guys later towards the end of the game, and he's confused about why you did that before he's just killed, before he can say more.
Yeah, he's not like the idiots.
So, well, like when you have enough money, it doesn't matter what stupid shit someone's telling you to do it, you'll do it.
Yeah, it's not like the Fight Club where all the people of Project Mayhem are idiots. So it's like, you said you'd say that too.
It's not. I said that I felt kind of iffy about the morality in the first game. I feel a little bit worse about it in this game. Partly because no matter what, you still did kill your family. I mean, or, you ineffectively ordered something and your henchman did the wrong thing. It's still kind of
No, I don't think that's the right way to approach it, because Blackmore is a completely separate personality. He's not Torque. Torque is Torque, Blackmore is Blackmore, but they both share the same space of mind. They are a person split in two, and how the game ends depends on which one takes control, or if they just continue on in their state of perpetual misery with each other.
That reminds me, I had a question which is, unlike most of my questions, not stupid. Given that if you play the game evilly, Blackmore seizes control, and it's supposed to be Torque giving into Blackmore, does that mean that canonically Torque is ultimately just an incredibly really nice guy, and that every single bad thing that he does can be traced back to that was the influence of Blackmore that you were falling under?
Yes,
or
but he has a choice every
himself?
time. It's his choice to either do good or do evil, to listen to Blackmore or not. And I like in the neutral path, he was doing evil choices, and he's trying to become a better person, and then his own flawed nature and Blackmore's manipulations ended up undoing it all. It's a fitting tragic story for a person who's clearly not good but is trying to be good. And I think it's really well done if you end on neutral and then go into good for the second game.
Okay.
That's how I read it.
What I liked about it, and it goes back to that transformation, how it's no longer an evil choice. The first one's about learning sort of why and trying to deal with it, and then the second part is trying to live with, the monstrous side of you, or,
right,
knowing what's wrong with you. And that's why you can use it without, busting your morality, because this is there, and this evil is, within you. While we're mentioning horror games, the evil within, but now you have to deal with it. You have to learn from it, and you have to, figure out how to, excise what you don't need and kind of temper it to be a person. And that's what I liked about, the way this was implemented here.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's pretty much Torque's story, but all of his fuck-ups and baggage are so incredibly terrible that they've basically spread out across everything. You never really understand why the malefactors' events happen throughout both games and why Torque seems to be a trigger. And I don't think it was ever planned to explain that. It's just a way to tell this personal story about this very, very, very flawed person.
Oh, and then Blackmore died in one hit in the boss fight. That was good. I loved that. He just... You have to transform, and I transformed and did my special attack. And then the hardest part of the boss fight, actually, because I was playing on normal, and apparently that's still really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Is that I kept hearing Blackmore say, alright, you win, I forfeit, get it over with. And he was saying that for a minute, because I was running around the final boss arena going, where are you? I know that I did an area attack that hit you, but I have no idea where you are. And he was on a completely different floor to me. So, I was like, wow, that is one powerful area attack.
The weird thing is trying to picture what is actually going on in this fight, because, there's the real part. They're in the real part of Baltimore, and, obviously we've established that the monsters are actually existing and doing damage. And then there's Torque fighting himself, and I'm just imagining, him running around.
I think they're just in the Mind Palace at that point.
Yes, the Mind Palace.
Like the Mind Palace of the ultimate horror game in SNK Heroines. The one where the plot is basically the man trapped all the ladies in the Mind Palace and implied sexual assault. Comedy.
Back to Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, yeah.
I'll
and if it's in
that.
the Mind Palace, it makes sense at the ending of the good one where it's like, Torque, you did a good job. Good, I'm proud of you. And they kiss and they go to heaven? Or he just...
I think the implication is that in the evil ending, it's obvious Blackmore won, and he's going to do whatever the fuck he wants now. In the neutral ending, Torque is still alive and all that. But in the good ending, I think the implication is that Torque dies, but he dies on terms he can agree with, that he managed to undo the source of all the pain and suffering that he's caused. So at least he can go out feeling like he's accomplished one good thing.
That's kind of annoying when you think about it, that like the final boss fight. I mean, it turned out to coincidentally be by far easier than every other fight in the game. but the fact that from a narrative standpoint, the final boss could have been Torque going, "That's it, I'm putting an end to this," and then blowing his own head off with a shotgun. Being like, "Can't inhabit my body now, Blackmore."
Well, that's not as, that doesn't work quite as well as diving into the water, into the depths, and the soul and all that.
Just like headless Torque tapping the head that isn't there, being like, "Can't inhabit my body if I don't have a body."
Until he becomes one of the, slasher enemies, and it doesn't matter if he has a head.
Well, yeah, that's why Yep.
Yep.
Well, a lot of hate has to be involved with that, and in the good ending, he wouldn't have really had that. And the neutral and evil endings.
Sorry, I'm being more silly and less serious.
Oh, can I ask a quick question, actually? Because in the evil ending, yeah, it turns out that Blackmore is dating stupid evil scientist woman. But in the evil ending, there's also a moment where you can kill... No, not in the evil ending. At some point during the evil playthrough, you can kill her. What happens in the ending if she's dead, but you're evil?
Oh. Probably
next year on Halloween IndieCent.
So yeah, these are both very flawed games, but I like both of them a lot. The first one more than the second one, though I appreciate what the second one's ambition was much more. They definitely have their place. I can honestly say there's no other horror game out there that's quite like them. They have their own style and interesting ideas that clearly take from a lot of sources, but they're not sources that are tapped into quite the same way as other games have interpreted them. This is what, I can't really think of many good American horror games that aren't just walk around and hide when the monster's there. Oh god, I'm so fucking tired of that.
I love those. Hiding is great. It's what you do when you're scared.
So seeing like an American-style survival horror that isn't trying to be exactly like old PS1 Resident Evil and Silent Hill games is a breath of fresh air to me, because I have never played anything else like this before. And I don't think I ever will again. God, I really want this series to come back in some form, because I think if you just didn't do stuff like name black people Skid and Torque, you could do really interesting things like explore police brutality, racial violence and all that. But as it is, I like these games for what they tried to do and what they did manage to accomplish anyways, despite the many flaws. Oh god, there's so many.
Yeah, it's probably a disadvantage that I played it now for the first time, because obviously you've had 13 years of advancement and all of that.
To be fair, I've only played the second one very recently.
Okay, but I liked what it was trying to do. I got what it was trying to do. It's just the act of playing it is very disruptive to what it's trying to do.
Just like trying to play the first Deus Ex.
Something like that, yeah. I'm still trying to get past.
Why are there swim controls? Why would this ever be useful?
But anyway, I mean, sometimes it gets in the way as trying to do too much atmosphere. Like I said, it tries to layer on itself too much, and it tries to put... Obviously, they didn't have time to plan this out, so much is crammed into one level, so you'll have a guy talking and something... And Dark is trying to distract me with hentai images while I'm talking, and my ADHD doesn't like that. But it's...
Same energy.
I'm glad I played it. I don't think I will ever play these again. I know they benefit from multiple playthroughs, and seeing what they're doing, they're more than what they were, and especially more than like the GameSpot review of The Ties That Bind, where it's just a string of action scenes with no story. And granted, the story part where they're trying to capture the malefactors for reasons, and they never get into that, and then everything just goes to hell immediately. Doesn't really work.
It's implied it's just umbrella bullshit,
Yeah.
but it's more complicated because the malefactors aren't really physical beings, sort of, kind of, so they disappear shortly after capture.
Yeah. So that is...
I remember there's actually dialogue where the scientists are like, okay, how the fuck do we study these things? They keep vanishing.
Yeah. It's... that part's kind of stupid because it's just a reason for this to take place here and have different settings. But, you know, there are little things that, you know, they add up to, you know, a whole lot if you think about them more. But it's just like, I'm glad I played them. I'm never going to play it again. And I will always remember the frustration I have. And it's like, I always go back to this as my prime experience with gameplay. Like, if you go to Chrono Trigger and you're in the Ocean Palace where there are very clear stakes and there's like an intense energy and it's exciting and it is like the most amazing time I've ever had playing a game, and I was so into it. And this is like, this could be something like that, but it keeps stopping and starting, and it keeps getting in its own way, and the AI keeps getting in your way, and it's all disruptive, and the mood is disrupted, and it's just like, it becomes more of a mechanical, just get through this, get to the next thing, and it takes me out of the experience a little bit. So I can see what they're trying to do, but I don't like it as much because of the experience I had.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's safe to say that I like the first one more, but I'll admit that's heavily influenced by the fact that I played the first one over like 2.5 weeks, taking a break every now and again, and this one I rushed in about 4 days.
You just pulled the Danny there.
Yeah. And
Danny, every time we play a point and click game, plays it the night before. I hate this.
Oh. But it's Danny. You can't stay mad at Danny. Anyway, but yeah, it's I won't be playing these games again just because I'm not really the type to replay games unless they are like Resident Evil 7 quality, and even then I haven't replayed Resident Evil 7 in 5 years.
Resident Evil 4.
Damn it! Wait, no, Resident Evil 7 is still good. I mean, I haven't played it, but yeah, I'm fine with everyone. But so anyway,
one of the DLCs for Resident Evil 7 is amazing because you play as an old man in a swamp who punches zombies to death and eventually gets a robot arm.
That was one of the... I saw that DLC and I was like, oh god, they brought the Resident Evil 6 people back. You're going to make me do a rant on
Resident Evil 7, which while I liked, it's just like the found footage, the realistic, going back to its roots, it's constantly disrupted by the fact that it's the most batshit sane out of all of them, including 6. And I do not say that lightly.
To be fair, the plot of Resident Evil makes more sense when you realize that it's not like biological mutation, it's actually about biocurses. So anything goes.
Yeah, I know, but it's still like Resident Evil 6 never pulled the shit that you can lose your limb and you just pour some liquid on it and attach it.
Actually, I think the idea was like that was what's actually happening in the old games, but the budget was so low they couldn't show it. So instead of like making it more realistic when they got to this level of fidelity, they just decided, hey, to contextualize using a healing item, why don't we just like have you pour stuff on a dismembered hand?
But it fights with the tone they're trying to get, which is a more realistic found footage, and also the found footage part bothering because like the first one I get because they're trying to film this, you know, cheesy series of haunted places, but then the rest of them, like, who's getting this footage? Who is archiving this footage? And that...
Well, then you find out it's because of the biocurse.
Yeah, so yeah.
I just didn't like how... Because it's that DLC with the guy Joe, and it's just like, hey, we're just going to introduce this guy named Joe. He was never mentioned in the main story, but he's a cousin of the family. Also, you know that boss you climactically killed? Kind of like Jack Krauser in Resident Evil 4? Well, just like Jack Krauser in Resident Evil 4, it's going to turn out he's going to be alive so that you can kill him in a similar boss fight.
No, not in a similar boss fight at all.
Not in a similar boss fight, really.
No, you fucking punched his eye out.
Yeah, you kill him by punching him really hard in the face.
You punch him with a fucking rocket fist.
I am sorry.
Yeah, but you previously injected him with the serum that was supposed to like just completely
Yeah, but Rocket
Anyway.
Fist.
I'm sorry, I've completely
Rocket Fist
disrailed.
It's so
when we should be
stupid. It's
wrapping up.
amazing.
That is my fault.
You can suplex.
But just-
You can suplex zombies.
I take responsibility.
The Redfield one. Yeah. The Redfield DLC one sucks.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it goes right back to Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 6.
Go away,
being
Chris.
like,
Nobody likes you.
I gotta save my team! And then you meet the team and they all die like 10 seconds after he meets them because Lucas puts a bomb on their wrists. And he puts a bomb on your wrist and then he goes, that's it, Chris, you've caused enough problems. I'm gonna blow you up. But for some reason it has a timer of like 20 fucking minutes. It's like, wow, Lucas, you didn't think to program this for like 5 seconds?
Why did Reb
And then you
Brown
finally-
never voice Chris Redfield? Because it's the same guy.
Oh.
Go away, Chris. No one
So
likes
speaking
you.
of the suffering,
Yes.
I did say at the beginning, like, I thought it was too much of an action to be a horror, and it was too much of a horror to be an action. But in a weird way, that does give it a very unique place, where even though I am comparing it to Manhunt in my head, because I think they're quite similar, and I'll probably write a Manhunt versus The Suffering at some point, then The Suffering definitely has a little unique niche in between action and horror, and it's fun to play. And I am definitely not going to find the time to play these games again, but they both still stand the test of time, and they are still interesting and enjoyable to play, if flawed in ways that cannot be forgiven by just like, oh, it was the mid-2000s, everyone was carrying 2 guns. That's a bad example to choose, because in lots of games you do carry 2 guns. I hate it in every game that it happens in.
Halo.
God damn it. And I hated it especially in, this isn't even a horror game, but in Black, just because I'm not an expert on guns, and I don't live in America. So you just walk up to something and it's like, ah yes, the SCP-1147, and I'm just like, is this a sniper rifle or an assault rifle or a shotgun or something? Because SCP that's the internet thing with all the scary made up monsters. I don't know if that's a fucking gun or not. I've gotten better. I know that the Walther is a shotgun now, but that's all. So in conclusion, Suffering's pretty good, but coming off the back of the last Halloween episode being Alan Wake,
Yeah, I understand. Because it's hard to top that.
Yeah, it doesn't really measure up to Alan Wake.
Be fair, Alan Wake had millions of dollars put into it and was slaved over for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Also, it was good.
But yeah, that's The Suffering, and that is our Halloween special.
What are we doing next year?
That is a good question.
Decide now. Just
Actually, I might. There's been a lot of PS2 style indie games. I mean, PS1 style indie games coming out. So I might look if one of them is like finished and like the Resident Evil and Silent Hill likes. I might try one of those. That might be.
I think we should
interesting.
do a really expensive, high-budget game like the Ex Mortis series. I remember those. They were terrible.
Alright, we'll see you all again next year, and for now, we're logging off. How should we end this episode?
Oh, just so you know, this entire time I've been moving my left arm anti-clockwise, my right arm clockwise, and knocking my head backwards and forwards.
Okay.
Fuck that genie.
Brainwash, consume, as like heat, too much. Go think of the fudge, no judge, a whole grudge. Never will I budge like heat, too much. But them Colan's ill, still is under inch stringing.